your dignitaries in residence tonight, Rick Morris and Elaine Tanko. We have another dignitary on the phone lines, a dignitary who has himself some very interesting, very unique introductory music, as he has had from the first episode of the show back in January of '07.
Nathan Noy.
Don't call it a comeback. I've been here for years. I'm rocking my pants, putting suckers in fear, making the tears rain down like a monsoon. Listen to the bass go boom, explosion.
I like to say that he was a dignitary even before the lounge existed, because you go back to the old FantasyDraftHelp.com insider. He was my partner on that long ago. I've been doing stuff with this guy years before FDH even really existed, so he wasn't there at the beginning. He was there before the beginning. The one and only Nate Noy. How you doing tonight, buddy?
Doing all right, Rick. I'm just hoping the Cavs don't need to call Life Alert tomorrow night. This about 26 hours from now. So
Belfie's going to have a residual check coming to you for like 62 cents for that plug there. So,
help, we fallen and we can't get up. That's what it'll be if they don't get him tomorrow. I don't know.
What a wonderful segue on such a subject as this. You know, we were just speculating here, and as I was doing my opening statement tonight, and you and I talked about this off air. I mean, give me your 2 cents worth on this. We got good old Worldwide Wes in Chicago. He handles mortgage stuff for a lot of these players here. Now, mortgage matters are different than residential property tax issues and things like that, but if you're looking for a diversionary tactic just to try to make things more interesting on a day in which people seem to be dismissing the Bulls out of hand at this point here, what better way to throw the Bulls back into it if it's deliberate? As I said before he came on here, a good friend of the station, Bill Roediger, just talking to him, telling him the news, he said to me, he just kind of looked at me like, look, man, would they be stupid enough to scoop themselves like this the day beforehand through something like this that could become public? So, I mean, there's two ways of looking at it. I mean, what's your gut when you hear something like this?
To me, my initial reaction is the same as yours, uh-oh. But then when you really sit back and think about it, you think about where the financial centers in this country are, New York and Chicago, and where the expertise would be in that field. There's probably people that are higher qualified to handle multi-million-dollar finances out of Chicago than out of Cleveland. And maybe LeBron simply went for a better service at this point. You know, maybe there's nothing to it. Maybe it's just a simple business transaction that people are reading way too much into. So it very well could be. I mean, that makes a lot of sense. Sometimes the easiest explanation is the one that's the one that makes the most sense. The easiest one a lot of times turns out to be the right one. Could the timing on this have been perfectly inadvertent, perfectly innocent, or is something like this timed the day beforehand to try to add a little bit more intrigue and stir the pot even more? Either it's an intrigue thing. I don't see it being that innocent. You know, it's either an intrigue thing, let's fuel the flames here, or it's a total mistake on their part and it really is gone. You know, I mean, it's one or the other. I don't think it's just coincidence. And I was thinking about something earlier before I got on the show that I actually lived in Chicago, as you know, back in between '03 and '06. And I remember in '05, my wife had gone down to Michigan Avenue to do some shopping, and she ran into an entourage of people, one of whom was the entourage leader, LeBron James. So I was thinking about that, thinking back to, gee, LeBron probably does like Chicago a lot. This, you know, maybe that's a city he really wants to be in. So, you know, I'm coming out of this today. Oh, thinking it's probably 50-50 still, a coin flip between the Cavs and Bulls, and we'll just have to wait and see.
Are you thinking that the Heat is out of it completely? I kind of am, because I'm thinking to myself, there's no way if he was going to the Heat that his announcement wouldn't have been coordinated with Bosh and Wade.
I'm in agreement. That's what I thought immediately. And actually, you know, before Boozer was signed with the Bulls today, I heard, you know, Bosh to the Heat. My first thought was, boy, that makes the Cavs a lot more likely to be keeping LeBron at this point. Because I agree with you. You know, I think on one hand, you think they want to do it as a trio, but then again, LeBron doesn't really want to share the spotlight. So, you know, and he's got this whole you know, TV thing tomorrow night and all this. So, you know, maybe that plays into it as well. It's hard to say. Nobody can read LeBron. None of the experts can read LeBron. And what do we do but wait another day at this point?
The one thing I will say, I've been taking my cue a good chunk of the way here From Brian Windhorst to the Plain Dealer, who I've been saying this until I'm red in the face, and I'll continue saying I think he's the best beat writer in the country, probably for any team in any sport. He just does such a great job, and he's really adapted so well to the 24/7 news cycle. He's got the blogs going all the time, as well as his regular column in the newspaper, video blogging. He's on Twitter. He's omnipresent. With that, he really takes this as the 24/7 job that it has to be when you have that beat. Having said that, he has said all along that he has felt that it was more likely LeBron was going to stay because he feels that there's a threshold there. There's a threshold issue that LeBron has to cross this threshold to decide that he's leaving town, and that there's a certain hurdle that's higher than most people think in that regard, that people think it's just like flipping a switch, and it would not be. Windhorst said, I think it was yesterday, he said, this social media stuff, everything like that he's doing now. He says, I'm starting to think that I don't recognize this version of LeBron, that somewhere along the way he may have crossed that Rubicon, and it's only becoming clear now. So I've gone from all along having a certain amount of calm reserve from everything he's been saying in that regard to him saying today, geez, I'm starting to think that, maybe I wasn't reading everything that was there, and LeBron was kind of keeping it under wraps, and that this unveiling tomorrow night really is indicative of a new LeBron who could be comfortable making such a monumental move like this and leaving the Cavs in his hometown behind.
Yeah, Rick, and I mean, a lot of that, again, plays right into making logical sense that, why is he picking now to launch Twitter? Why is he doing this now? When I heard that initially from you, that my first thought was, well, here he comes to the Knicks, because, that would play into his whole marketing strategy. But then again, it could be another thing of where this is innocent, and he finally just got programmed with things like Twitter, and it just might all be coincidental. And again, he has the spotlight tomorrow. ESPN was doing a poll today, which will get more ratings: the Home Run Derby, the All-Star Game, the World Cup Final, or LeBron's announcement. And the World Cup Final, 38% of the people voted LeBron, came in at 30%. So, there's going to be a lot of people watching this. He's going to have the spotlight of the country tomorrow to have this decision. He's got the world in the palm of his hand, and hopefully he's just milking all this and going to announce he's going to stay in Cleveland. But there's nothing we can really do at this point. I'm reserved to just waiting another day, and then we'll all know, and then we'll just talk about it afterwards. So
I can believe that. I can believe that, and there is that whole thing here. It is easy to believe, as Windhorst is painting the picture here. And again, he's just sketching a scenario now as he was before. There's nothing to say that he was right before or that he's right now, except that I do tend to think that, just about everything that the guy says makes sense. With the one exception, right after the playoffs, I felt like he engaged in a little bit of revisionism when he said, I was wrong, we were all wrong, this team didn't have everything we thought they did. And I said at the time, no, I don't think you were wrong. I don't think we were wrong. I think they just didn't get everything out of the pieces that they had. Aside from that, I've pretty much agreed with him all the way. But this could be indicative of, the butterfly that's about to sprout his wings, go to a bigger market, truly become, I mean, he's already been a worldwide figure. I don't know how much bigger he thinks he's going to be, but whatever it is, of moving on to the bigger market of Chicago, New York, whatever the worst nightmare is of Cleveland people over the years, it could be indicative of that, of this new social media image. He's got his regular website back up in addition to Twitter. He hadn't had his regular website up really the last year or two, which really is kind of a head scratcher. Except there could be a little miscalculation coming if this is the way he's looking at it. And this is one of the things that gives me hope also, because I come from this from the perspective that he's a calculating man. He may not be the most canny individual, but I think he is canny and savvy, certainly at least to an extent. And he has to know, when you look at the mangy, pathetic, scrawny mutts on the American sports landscape, is there anything bigger than Cleveland? I mean, winding up and giving it a kick with a steel-toed boot tomorrow night on national television to make that announcement in this kind of a way, I don't think it's just wishful thinking on my part to think that there's going to be a little bit of a national backlash on that. I mean, I think the rest of the country knows how much this city has suffered in these ways, and this does seem to be a way that would cause maximum grief to the people in this city if it goes down that way.
I'm with you in full agreement there, Rick. And when I think about it again, back to the logic of why he's doing it this way, in my mind, it's more likely he's going to stay with the Cavs because of this whole, national TV thing tomorrow night. I mean, could he dare kick, as you said, kick Cleveland when they're down on national TV like that, or is this the, I'm staying, I'm with the Cavs, and we're going to do this here? I mean, this team won 60 games. They did have all the pieces. You don't win 60 games in the NBA and not have all the pieces. They just ran into the wrong team at the wrong time and got put out, and LeBron has a lot to do with that. I mean, he totally didn't show up in Game 6. You and I both know that. It's his fault. They lost because of him. If he'd have shown up in that series, who knows? They may have not beaten the Lakers. They probably would have at least played the Lakers. So, I just can't see him, picking this, doing all this, building all this up, and then to say, see you later, Cleveland. If he was going to kiss Cleveland goodbye, you'd think he would have done it in a more, with more integrity. If he says goodbye tomorrow night, then, any true Cavs fan can never have use for LeBron James again. But that's why I'm more inclined to think this is his big, see, Cleveland, I'm staying, I love Ohio, and then we're going to do this together. And we just did all this, build up to reassure you. So.
Well, I will say this too, and I want to talk about the Cavs and their approach to try to keep him, but I will say this, that you touched on a little bit there of something that's a big truth if you really look at it, and it's something that the Cavs could not afford to do in that presentation, okay? They got to suck up to this guy. They got to kiss his ass like they have for the last 7 years. It's the way the world works. I mean, it doesn't make it right. It's not something that I relish seeing happen, but they did what they had to do on that, as they've done for 7 years. Having said that, they could have been forgiven had there been something in there kind of like, unfinished business. Where were you games 5 and 6? Maybe even a little bit of game 4. Do you really want to go out that way? And I'll tell you what, I think, and again, I don't think this is just wishful thinking on my part or preemptive bitterness if he does leave. I, like you, tend to be a little bit of a sports historian. We look at guys like me and you look at guys through that historical prism. I'm not saying he can't wash that off, but I'm saying that that's something that he would have to scrub off that's greater, I think, than what Jordan had to scrub off along the way, Kobe, Kareem, Magic, Bird. I can't think of anybody else comparable that had to scrub. I mean, Magic got the rep for being a coach killer because he got Paul Westhead, got a hot slug put in him. But this is bigger than that. The way that Boston series ended, I mean, if he walks out after having finished those last couple games and played so far below his standard, again, I don't think it's wishful thinking to think that would be something that would tarnish his legacy and something he has to be aware of.
Absolutely. LeBron's a sharp guy surrounded by sharp people, and I agree with you completely. I mean, at least the people in Cleveland will always remember how he left, not only his performance in his last game here, he took the coach down with him, he'll take the whole franchise down with him, and you can't rehabilitate that from your legacy. Yeah, go win 3 championships with the Bulls. Guess what? The people in Cleveland still know what you were. So, if he's going to leave, let's bring a couple championships here first, LeBron. He knows that. So,
well, and I'll tell you what, too. I desperately want LeBron to stay. I mean, I've said before on the show, I don't have the emotional attachment to the guy. I never thought that he was the reincarnation of God or anything like that personally. He's the greatest athlete that's been in my hometown in my lifetime. I've always rooted for him between the lines. Never had anything against him, but never like, oh, you're my favorite person in the history of humanity. So I haven't gotten emotionally invested on a personal level, just on a professional level. So that might account for what I'm about to say. But I'm just so embarrassed for this city, the people in it. I'm driving downtown last week. I see the banners on the overpass, and I'm going, we're planting our collective lips on the ass of somebody to get him to sign a 9-figure contract. What the hell is wrong with this society? I mean, it just, for people to degrade themselves like this, and the people that went down there on a Saturday just to throw chalk in the air as the the limos and the SUVs are pulling into the garage, it's stuff like that. I mean, do some of these people not have lives? And it becomes a matter of pride and dignity, I think, at some point when you just compromise yourself to that degree. And to the extent the Cavs have been behind it, and as I say, I think the Cavs organization has been spot on with just about everything they've done for the last 7 years. Or let me scratch that, the 5 years since Gilbert's been here. I'm not going to speak for Gordo right now because good riddance that he's gone. But I mean, isn't that carrying it a little bit too far? And isn't there the potential risk of backlash on that as well? There's an implied threat there, Nate, with this whole, you're home, LeBron, you're home. There's the implied thing of, yeah, we're going to turn you into Art Modell if you leave. You know, that could backfire.
Absolutely. And the sick thing about all that, I read that the Cavs spent $500,000 in that marketing campaign, $500,000 in that marketing campaign. Are you kidding me? Mm-hmm. That's just, that's a joke. And, it'll be a lot easier to talk about this in 26 hours. It's what I keep circling back to. So
I know. No, you're right about that. You're absolutely right. But again, it's a sign, I think, of priorities being a little bit amiss. But this organization, again, they've done everything that they can do, and I've said, depending on what happens tomorrow night, I mean, I'm more likely, as a lifelong Cavs fan, I'm more likely to go buy some Cavs swag the next day if he doesn't sign than if he does, which might sound weird, but this is going to be the time to support Dan Gilbert, okay? You have to support people when they're down. This man has done everything he can to keep LeBron here. If LeBron leaves, it's not on Dan Gilbert in any way. He's done everything he could. He spent the money. We have an Indians organization that might as well be owned by war criminals in the form of the Dolans and Shapiro in the front office and everything like that. If I'm going to criticize them, how can I not support Dan Gilbert unconditionally and say, I will buy Cavs gear, I will try to get to more games, I will try to support this organization when they're down, and I would be naive in thinking people are going to look at it that way, but I hope people join me in that regard.
No, and that's funny you say that, Rick, 'cause I'm like you. I mean, growing up, since I was a little kid, my favorite team in all of professional sports has always been the Cavs. And, as a, quote, like you, lifelong Cavs fan, it was awesome LeBron came, but then the bandwagon came with LeBron. You've got all these, where were these people when I was going to the Richfield Coliseum with 2,000 other people? Where were they at? Well, they weren't Cavs fans then. So that's the one thing to save, not to call it a saving grace, but for a true Cavs fan, if LeBron does leave tomorrow, at least he'll take all the bandwagon fans with him, and only the pure fans will still be left for us. So
that's true. That's absolutely true. And that's one of these things, too. I haven't heard, and I don't mean to put out any misinformation on this here, but the network apparently may be doing a special for this tomorrow night. If it was announced one way or another, I'm probably putting out misinformation by just speculating on this, and Belfie asked me to be a part of it. I'm going to say ahead of time, I may not I'm inclined to be here for it. If he goes, I'm not inclined to necessarily stick around for it, because I'm not going to sit here if it's going to turn into a sob fest and this is like The Drive and Red Right 88. If everybody starts doing that, Morris out at that point, because you know what? I don't have time for that crap. You turn the page, he's gone. What are we going to do about it? And yeah, it's probably 5 years at the most optimistic before this team could be a big contender again. But that's where I'm at. You turn the page. If something like that happens, you won't see me sitting here spending one moment being a no-lifer about it. I'll leave that to other people if that's what they're going to be inclined to do.
Yeah, and that's the sad thing. I mean, it scares me in the fact that, people in Cleveland love to wallow in self-pity. And, boy, talk about the ultimate moment for them. This definitely trumps Elway and Modell and everything else that ever happened to Cleveland if LeBron does leave tomorrow. So, that brings us back to how he's doing it tomorrow. Would he really do that? Would he really bring the whole world together to watch him announce that he's sticking it to Cleveland one more time? I just can't believe he would do that.
There's people that really do get off on the whole thing. It's a masochistic type of a thing. They love to scratch that itch. I'm not one of those people. I have contempt for that whole kind of thing. I want to see a winner, and all I care about is what ultimately is going to bring one here. And if he's gone, then to me the focus immediately turns to, okay, you're probably better off burning it to the ground, start from scratch, and everything like that, and I'll be there to support the team if that happens. The team has done everything it can to deserve that kind of support. It has been a zoo over the course of the last week with the way that everything's gone. Right off the bat, there were the preemptive signings by teams. We had a sense that not all of these guys were going to change teams because, again, the Bird rules being what they are, I've said all along that that's a powerful thing to argue for LeBron staying and anybody else. With the Bird rules, teams can pay more to their own guys. But Joe Johnson and Rudy Gay, right off the bat, I don't think anybody saw that coming. Most people had Joe Johnson gone, even if Atlanta, put the cash up. But apparently Atlanta got desperate enough. Joe Johnson decided to take the cash because it was much better than he was going to get from anybody else. And Memphis locking up Rudy Gay. I will say this, Memphis has taken a lot of criticism, but again, I have always been a believer in the kid's upside. He's never quite lived up to it. Never quite. But you win in the NBA with guys who can be who are what he can become. I think Memphis did the right thing. Maybe Atlanta not so much, but those interesting early moves set the tone for a very crazy week.
Oh, absolutely, and it's all coming together here at the end of the week with Bosch and Boozer today, and I like the Rudy Gay move as well. I think that, like you just said, he's not there yet, but what he could become, if you're ever going to win a championship, you have to have a guy like that on your roster. And Memphis, 3 years from now, this Lakers team will be completely dismantled. The Suns have already been dismantled now with Stoudemire in New York. I mean, you look at, Oklahoma City and Memphis, two of the laughing stocks for years and years. 3-4 years from now, those teams will be the ones, at the upper echelon of the West. And it's also interesting how, look at the influx of talent coming into the East. Boozer into the East, Stoudemire into the East. LeBron does go to one of these other places. I will certainly be, rooting against whatever team LeBron signs for, if it's not the Cavs, and hoping that team is a second-round or first-round exit in the playoffs every year. So,
well, your Western semis a couple of years from now: Oklahoma City, Sacramento, and Memphis Clippers. How about that? But Minnesota will still suck. That'll be a constant. But the other things changing around there, it just. Again, the landscape has just been just really crazy over the course of the last week here. The rumors have kind of ebbed and flowed. The media has been characteristically irresponsible, some more than others, and something that I want to pick on in particular. This guy said this on Twitter over the weekend, as he did on his show on Friday. Very interesting. You talk about the epitome of professionalism and the aforementioned Brian Windhorst, Cleveland Plain Dealer Cavs beat reporter, on with Stephen A. Smith. I mean, I don't know if you could get two more direct opposites in terms of professionalism. Screaming A, who put out his whole gaga about these three are going to Miami, the big three are going to Miami, blah, blah, blah. He says to Windhorst, as Windhorst is making the case for LeBron staying in Cleveland and pointing out the other side, that he actually had the balls to say this, and he said it again on Twitter over the weekend. Regardless of what happens, I was right. I was right. They may guilt him into staying, but that doesn't mean I wasn't right. And I'm going, holy crap, have some accountability. Be a man for once in your pathetic life. Be a man. Own it. If LeBron doesn't end up in Cleveland and I set them up as a narrow favorite on the FDH odds, I'll own it. I was wrong. I said the Cavs were first on the list, albeit by an inch, and he didn't go to Cleveland. I was wrong. For Stephen A. Smith to preemptively say that is just beyond weaselly in my estimation.
Well, I guess that's the one saving grace. If LeBron becomes a Bull tomorrow, Stephen A. Smith is a moron, and everybody knows it, because the Bulls certainly aren't going to guilt him into signing there. So.
Yeah. I mean, what's that? Although, and again, this puts the whole Kremlinology during the Cold War to shame. Like when people would be studying the leaders Brezhnev looks like he's got a little bit of a cough. I wonder what his health is like. This puts all of that to shame as far as speculation. What does this mean? What does that mean? Whatever. I heard it speculated on a national show on the radio today, and this is an interesting point. Chris Bosh, who, first and foremost, he wanted to be with LeBron. He was like attached to the hip to LeBron. First of all, I think this shows, I'm just going to sound bitter about Chris Bosh, but whatever. To me, he's not that serious about winning, because I think it's all about, he wants to be in South Beach. He wants it to be 80 degrees in the winter. Hey, if we win, it's cool, but whatever. His first choice was to be with LeBron. LeBron was going to be in Cleveland with a team that's already really good. Chris Bosh, thanks, but no thanks. I don't want to be in Cleveland. Yeah, I don't want to be in Cleveland doesn't strike me as necessarily your number one criteria for being a winner when you have a blanket statement like that. But Chris Bosh going there. Here's the thing. I had heard it speculated, well, LeBron couldn't possibly be going to Chicago because Bosh was going to go with him no matter what, as long as it wasn't Cleveland. He must think LeBron's staying in Cleveland if he's going to Miami. And then later in the day, this whole Eric Mansfield stuff hits about LeBron and Chicago and everything like that. So it's interesting. That leads you to believe, if you believe as I do in the whole tinfoil hat conspiracy thing, maybe this LeBron stuff with the papers getting filed today was in reaction to that, to throw people off the scent. Who knows? This stuff could drive you crazy.
It will. That's why you just have to hold your breath for a day.
Yeah.
It will. It will absolutely drive you crazy. And this is, on par with the whole, the only thing that comes close to this is every year the debate about what team should be playing for the national title in college football. I mean, the buzz that LeBron wanted, he got it. Boy, did he get it in ways we can't even imagine. And let's just hope that the event tomorrow is his announcement that he's staying with the Cavs and all is well. And, bring on the Heat and Bosch and bring on the Bulls. And, it's all of those teams, we'll see. It'll be interesting to watch. I just wish it was tomorrow already, but it's not. So.
I do too. And if LeBron goes to the Bulls, he can at least make a case that it's basketball related. I don't think he can make that case with the Knicks because Stoudemire, D'Antoni, whatever, you're looking at a lot of 120 to 119 games. Nobody ever wins championships in that style, and they're not going to have too much else left on the roster. They're going to be waving bye-bye to David Lee, who's already a star player in this league anyway. So you can't make that case about going to New York, and that's another factor in all of this, that LeBron has to know, again, with this backlash that's been building towards him over the last couple of years, the backlash is that he's more about image than about winning. Really, Chicago and Miami are the only places he can go other than Cleveland at this point and not have that feed into the backlash of dude only cares about style and flash and everything like that. He goes to New York or to a certain extent New Jersey, and that would be the case also. New Jersey's got better pieces than New York, but still not on a par with Chicago or the Big Two in Miami.
Absolutely, and again, we'll have a lot to talk about in a day. We'll know, we can peg LeBron at that point, and all this previous speculation will be ancient history. We'll know what kind of guy he is. We'll know a lot about LeBron. What he does tomorrow will tell a lot of people what he is. So, and he knows that. So that's, I'd still say that the Cavs are the most likely choice. The Bulls are probably the second most likely choice. I guess the Heat are still in the mix, and maybe the Knicks are still in the mix. But it's most likely to be the Cavs or the Bulls in my mind, and hopefully still the Cavs.
I think so. The odds as we set them at FDH 12:01 a.m. last Thursday night. Cavs 5-1, Bulls 6-1, Heat 8-1, Knicks 10-1, Nets 20-1, Field 50-1. So many other ones on here we've gotten right. Dwayne Wade we had as the favorite. The favorite was the Heat 2-1. That panned out. Mavs 9-5 to keep Dirk Nowitzki, which looks like it's in the works there. Chris Bosh 4-1 to go to the Heat. That was the favorite. There, Amari Stoudemire 5-1 to go to the Knicks. That was the favorite. Joe Johnson got that one wrong. Had the Hawks 30-1 on that one. Well down the list. So wrong on Joe Johnson. Wrong on Carlos Boozer. Chicago 18-1. But that was because I'll tell you what. And by the way, Paul Pierce 2-1 to stay with the Celtics. I was right about that one. Some of the other ones are still in play. Carlos Boozer. Here's why I had him well down the list. Because I knew that he was Plan B or Plan C as far as Chicago big men went. And I didn't expect them to whiff on both Stoudemire and Bosh. But the reason Boozer is in Chicago is because whiff they did.
Absolutely. And, again, it's the question of which came first, the chicken or the egg. Did the Bulls sign Boozer today because they know they're not getting LeBron, or did the Bulls sign Boozer today because they wanted to show LeBron they could bring somebody there with him? Who knows?
Yeah, it's a very complicated saga as far as how that goes. So you've got LeBron yet to go tomorrow night. As far as really the other significant pieces yet to shake out in this thing, there's still the chance. I listed Carmelo Anthony on our list here, even though he's not a free agent right now, just in terms of where he's going to end up. Listed him as 4-1 to stay with the Nuggets long term, or 8-1 to get traded to the Knicks in a sign and trade type deal. That could still end up shaking out this summer here. And then David Lee, that ends up being a substantial thing also. A lot of people see him going across the river there to play for the Nets. And that's not a small thing either, as far as how you look at that, because that's something where and again, I would expect the Nets to make another move or two around that. But you add David Lee to that mix, that's got to be at least a little bit of a black eye to the Knicks there, and take a little bit of the luster off of getting Stoudemire, that you've developed this player and you've gotten him to this all-star level, and for whatever reason, you found yourself in a position where you had to choose between him and a free agent. You chose the free agent, and dude is going to go across the river and eventually across town to come back and haunt you a bunch of times a year. That could be another thing for the Knicks that makes this summer end up much less perfect than they thought it was going to.
Oh, I agree completely. And if they don't land LeBron tomorrow, I mean, the Knicks might squeak into the 7th or 8th seed. How are they ever going to win a playoff series with that team? Don't see it happening for a long time, if ever.
Well, and there's talk about a Tony Parker trade, and supposedly the Spurs would be just fine going with George Hill, so that's possible to happen there. But for Stoudemire to outright talk about, yeah, we're going to get Tony Parker and we're going to get Carmelo Anthony, basically one way or another, whether it be in the form of a trade or next year in free agency. This is a little bit of where the chickens come back to roost here in terms of, as I mix my metaphors, the inmates running the asylum. David Stern, I've criticized on the show previously. He's got this whole laissez-faire attitude towards tampering and everything like that. When you got stuff like this going on, how are you going to put your foot down on Stoudemire's neck when he's just doing a more overt version of what the rest of the league has been doing for the last year or two leading up to this year? The league has created anarchy, and it's coming back to bite them.
Absolutely, and you don't see this crap in the NFL ever.
No.
So,
no.
That's why the NFL is the most well-run professional league on the planet. This doesn't happen in the NFL.
No,
so,
it doesn't. It doesn't. The fear of Roger Goodell is implanted in these guys, and they know better than to pull crap like this. And yeah, it makes you yearn for the iron fist of a commissioner when you see this kind of crap happening. And the interesting thing is, it's not because Stern necessarily is a weakling. He'll put his foot down when he thinks it's important. Generally, when there's a buck to be made, he'll put his foot down with that marketing brain of his that never shuts off. But that's what it comes back to. He's so obsessed with marketing. He's just spell our name right. It doesn't matter what you say about us. Just spell our name right. He's so obsessed with the whole any publicity is good publicity that again, and we talked about it before, it totally overshadowed the NBA Finals, which, by the way, was a 7-game series, which, by the way, was between the Lakers and the Celtics. And it really that's poetic justice that this whole circus that he tolerated and cultivated overshadowed the Finals.
Yeah, it is amazing. I mean, Tom Izzo was the lead story between Games 6 and 7 of the Finals, and Games 5, 6, and 7. Izzo was the top story. Izzo, what's he going to do? How can that overshadow a Celtics and Lakers final? But yeah, you're right. Stern got exactly what he asked for in the end on that. So
no, he did. He did. There's no question about it. So again, when you look at from LeBron down to David Lee. That's a little bit of a jump right there as far as, certainly the next tier or maybe even two of available players at this point. So as far as any shoes yet to drop, there's that one at that point. I'm looking at David Lee was on our list, number 26 as far as top players in the NBA. And I'm looking at this to see. He looks like the last one, really, to where there's a whole lot of doubt. Again, Carmelo, not a free agent yet. We don't know how that's going to materialize. And chances are, if LeBron doesn't go to the Knicks, that turns out to be something to happen, really, at this point. So there's not a whole lot yet to go on this major level. You look at tomorrow night. Again, you seem to be thinking that the Cavs still might narrowly be in the lead. I kind of think so as well. Talk about that a little bit and what you think on that subject and what the lasting implications are going to be meaning for that.
Yeah, I mean, the lasting implications are pretty cut and dry. I mean, this is a team that won 60 games. So they bring LeBron back, but, Jameson's back under contract. We'll get a full year of him. Team that should win 60 games again. They're a team that should be in competition for the number 1 seed in the East. I mean, the competition for the finals. I mean, they don't do much. They're there. LeBron leaves. This team will be lucky to win 20 games. I don't think it could win 20 games without him. So, and like you said, it'd be 5 years probably before they could have another winning season. It'll just be complete disaster, complete gutting of a franchise. It all comes down to one individual. And the NBA is the one sport where one guy makes all the difference. One guy can be worth 30, 40 wins in a season, which it's just reality. One player can change everything, just like the NCAA tournament. I mean, one guy can carry you to a championship. Just ask Melo that one. So, it's do or die for the Cavs, and LeBron's the decision maker, and we've known that for the last couple years, because like you said, all the moves the Cavs have made to appease him. If he does burn them, then there's a life lesson for all professional sports. You do this for one guy and it comes back to bite you. Maybe you won't do that next time, but these guys, it usually takes a lot for them to learn something, because a number of franchises out there repeat the same mistakes year after year, and at least the Cavs aren't the Clippers. I guess at the end of the day, maybe that's what we take away no matter what happens tomorrow. At least the Cavs aren't the Clippers.
Well, I'll tell you what, and it's fitting that we bring this segment around full circle on this note. We talk about this, and with what you just said right there, the unintended consequences that sometimes happen when you're going a certain way, whether it be David Stern cultivating the whole tabloid gaga of what's going to happen next with these guys, or LeBron James. LeBron James, in the last hour here, has become, or two, I don't know exactly the time when this was posted, has become himself a victim of the tabloid media here. From TMZ, breaking tonight, quote, LeBron sued by man claiming to be his father, end quote. Let me read you the opening paragraph here. TMZ has learned LeBron James and his mother Gloria James are being sued for millions by a man who claims he tried to prove he's the NBA star's biological father, but LeBron and his mom tampered with the evidence in a diabolical cover-up. The story goes from there. There are pictures. The guy does look at least a little bit like LeBron. Insert bad joke here about looking like LeBron.
The deadbeat guy comes back asking for money from the kid. Are you kidding me?
Yeah. I mean, but on the night before all of this happens, I mean, again, LeBron has been one-upped on the eve of this big. I mean, just like David Stern getting one-upped, so too has LeBron been. Closing thoughts on this matter.
That's so ironic. It makes me laugh. No way this deadbeat piece of crap should be able to put his hand out to LeBron. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
But it is funny.
Yeah,
it's just comical.
We'll
That's
see
our
what
legal
happens.
system, baby, right there. You can be the biggest piece of crap ever and still put your hand out at the end of the day.
Oh, my God. Well, I'll tell you what. I had thought this was going to be our next guest, Doug Glanville on line 2. It's not. Let me give an intro for who our next guest is while we're still waiting to hear from Doug Glanville.
Jason Jones.
All right, our senior editor coming on the air with us right now, senior editor Jason Jones coming on the air with us on the heels of the TMZ report. The headline, quote, LeBron sued by man claiming to be his father, end quote. One more loop into this, Jason, and I don't know if you heard earlier tonight, we mentioned this. Eric Mansfield, a reporter for the NBC affiliate in Cleveland, reporting, and apparently this is proven according to him. LeBron James today filing paperwork to have his residential tax stuff sent not to downtown Cleveland but to Chicago. Could just be a Worldwide West paperwork issue, but he's not having it sent to LRMR in downtown Cleveland. He's having it sent to Chicago. It was filed in Summit County because he lives in Bath Township, which is in Summit County. So thoughts on any or all of these things, Jason?
My resolve was pretty much unshaken until I saw that. I don't know. Is he buying a house for somebody in Chicago just to be a nice guy?
No. Here's what it is. This is regarding his existing house. Apparently, and we were talking about this previously on the show tonight, it's one of these deals where I guess you can have him send your tax stuff, whatever. It doesn't have to come to your house. Apparently, he's been having it go to LRMR in downtown Cleveland, and he's now telling him, can you please send it to Chicago instead? And he filed it, and it went through today. Again, it could be a paperwork thing. It just, using Worldwide West as part of a, subterfuge here. He's based out of Chicago. He handles stuff involving mortgages and things like that with players. It's easy to believe it could be misdirection. But again, as friend of the station Bill Roediger said to me before we went on the air tonight, they're pretty stupid if he's going to Chicago because they just scoop themselves if that's the case.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I'm so completely drained right now that, every little head fake up until a couple hours ago has got me jumping. So faith, loyalty, and all those things sort of for me are out the window right now. I think he might be onto something, because I don't. He wouldn't be this tight-lipped and then make some snafu like that, if that is a telling sign of anything to come. I also find it hard to believe that this hour-long broadcast that we're all going to be glued to tomorrow night would go down at all if he was leaving. It plays to everything that would indicate Cleveland. Using this as an opportunity to raise a great deal of money for a charity, community, all those things. It would send just the absolute wrong signal if he's going to do all those things and then go to Chicago or somewhere. I think he's smart enough not to consider Miami at this point, because 3 superstars in one place may sound nice on paper, but I don't think it works in real life. So I got to be honest, I'm probably like a lot of Cleveland fans, and I am literally shaking in my figurative boots.
Yeah.
Because I got nothing. I mean,
fast enough.
when I woke up this morning, before I saw the Bosch news, I really felt good. Whether it meant Bosch going to Cleveland and getting off of his high horse about where he's going to live, or Bosch not making a decision, but making the decision that he did, worries me a little bit. This Chicago report worries me a little bit. So I don't know. I have no idea where I'm at on this. It's funny because, you know, this may be the biggest moment in free agent history, and I got nothing.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, though. I got a little something. I'll tell you this as far as the take goes here, guys. On TMZ, I clicked through to the pictures here. Click here, and look at the pictures of the guy claiming to be LeBron's old man. I'll tell you what. Number 4, holy crap, man. Number 4, you know, now again, could be Photoshop, could be whatever. I don't want to necessarily take this at face value. Number 4, ladies and gentlemen, and I haven't gone any further than that, but you go to number 4, you go up that far on clicking through on this gallery, and there's 29 pictures. Oh, boy. Oh, boy. So, in a way, I tell you what, I mean, it's one of these things where when you look at it, I mean, you know, Nate, I mean, he's sort of gotten it done onto him. I'm not defending what's being done here and the timing of this, because I think it's kind of scummy, and as you said, Nate, the guy's a deadbeat scumbag if he is LeBron's long-lost father. But in a sense, Nate, he's doing on to LeBron as LeBron has done on to the rest of the league here with Gravy Train in this pub.
It's a beautiful irony.
It really is.
Yeah, definitely a deadbeat scumbag. And it's so funny. It's comical. How could anybody not laugh? And like Jason said, I mean, what LeBron's doing tomorrow, raising a lot of money for the Boys and Girls Club, that's cool. How could he ever do all this to kick Cleveland when they're down? He's doing it to pump up Cleveland, to bring money into a good cause, and to say, hey, I'm here for the duration. We're going to do this thing in Cleveland. That has to be it. I've convinced myself of that at this point. We're getting full circle here on our hour on the show. So,
well, I'll tell you what, too, guys. There's a past guest of the show that we've had on, Alan Hahn of Newsday, and I heard him being interviewed on a terrestrial station when I was driving down here. And he was talking with the host, and he was making the case. He said, by the way, he thinks from his perspective LeBron's staying in Cleveland. But the whole thing about how could LeBron still be pro-Akron and leave here? What if in the course of his New York stuff and the connections he makes, you know, if he could maybe lead to like a factory being built in Akron through his corporate connections and stuff like that, and helping to revitalize the battered old hometown. And the host said to him, just the way people look at stuff, that ain't going to save his image. That ain't going to come close. It'd be naive to think it would come close. And it's, again, we are such a sports-crazed society. And as I said earlier in the show tonight, Jason, it does kind of make me want to take a bath when I see all of this public ass-kissing about a guy that we want to sign a 9-figure contract. But, again, that's the reality of the world. That's the way it is. But because we are that kind of a society, you know, it's very naive, Jason, I think, to think that that would, you know, oh, LeBron's not such a bad guy after all. He brought a factory to Akron. You know, that ain't going to do it if he leaves.
Well, the funny thing about that is, if you saw the video they showed him, there's a lot of this whole family roots home Akron spin that's been thrown onto the fire, so to speak. And that's great, and I think it's awesome that he is compelled to stay to that idea. But LeBron James is everything we ever thought he would be by the time it's all over. He could win 15 titles for the next 15 years in Cleveland, and it's not going to bring Akron back.
Right.
That's just, I think that's absolutely ridiculous. No one man is going to do that. Billionaires couldn't force Akron to become a staple of manufacturing again. But regardless of that, if I may just jump back real quick to this father thing, I'm actually surprised it took this long for someone to pull a Shaq's dad move. If you remember that, going on Oprah, making a big deal. My only question to that is, what money does he think he's entitled to?
Yeah.
If anything, if the deadbeat father goes on to have an illustrious career doing something and making lots of money, technically the child and or mother might be entitled to something, but LeBron doesn't have to pay him a damn thing because he wasn't there.
Isn't it the other way around? Yeah, exactly. They should be able to come after him for back child support. You know.
Exactly. Yeah, once LeBron became a legal adult, that guy has no claim to anything.
Yeah. Well, there's that. I mean, whoever's his lawyer must be the same guy that's the lawyer for LT. This whole thing of his legal defense of, I didn't have sex with an underage girl. I merely exposed myself in front of her and did stuff. Like, hey, dude, by the way, didn't anybody ever tell you that's a felony also? You know? So, you know.
Here's what I'm thinking, Rick. And think about this from the dude's perspective. You got all these NBA groupies across the country. Now he can go out and say, hey, I fathered LeBron. Come on, baby. You want an NBA star?
But I'll tell you what,
if that guy wants to go planting seeds all over the place, that's a whole different discussion.
I'll tell you what, guys.
Maybe that's his end game, because what else could it be?
I can't emphasize this enough in looking at this. Picture number 4, when you click through on TMZ to the photo gallery of this guy claiming to be LeBron's dad, picture number 4 anyways, it's that, if you've ever seen that picture of LeBron, that kind of jocular kind of smile type thing that he goes into, that he does from time to time, whatever. This guy, at the very least, he's mimicking it perfectly, and maybe that's what's fooling me is how well he's mimicking it. But, I mean, the facial structure, everything else like that, again, who's to say Photoshop wasn't at use here? But, you know, that could be a thing here. Now, wait a minute. This is something where I just got a note from Elaine here. She says, claiming Gloria hid it from him. She was 15. He was 29. Okay, so that's an interesting. So you've apparently read more of this than I have, Elaine, here, just from what I've gotten to skim when I was on. So what are some of the other things that you're seeing here,
okay.
Elaine? What
that makes him a far more outstanding citizen. He was 29 and she was 15, and she hid the pregnancy.
Right.
Hooray.
Yeah, oh, exactly.
If that's the case, shouldn't he be running for the hills?
Yeah.
He ought to be in jail. Statute of limitations, unfortunately, but this dude should be in jail.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah. Well, I think there's somebody we could ask about that, Nate, as far as the statute of limitations. But be that as it may, Elaine, what are you seeing here on this story here? So he's claiming he was victimized basically on that basis.
Yeah, he's saying it's a big diabolical cover-up, that she was 15 and he didn't know. She came and told him she was pregnant, didn't say who the father was. She was pregnant with a boy named LeBron, and he is actually a Princeton graduate, to toss that in there too. Yeah.
Oh, that's right. That's right. I saw that when my eye caught that, and I didn't think about that again until right now. No, you're right, Aaron. It says what? University of Chicago? No, wait, isn't what? This is weird. TMZ's like automatically scrolling down the screen here. Here we go. All right. Law degree from the University of Chicago, senior legal advisor for the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission. Wow. In his, well, you know what? The guy must be telling the truth, because look at this next sentence here. Who would admit something like this? In his suit, Stovall claims he has a very clear recollection of the night he had, quote, consensual sexual relations, end quote, with Gloria. In fact, he even remembers apologizing for his subpar performance. Now, guys, who's going to admit that if it's not the truth? Come on now. You know?
Somebody who's pulling a con would admit that.
Boy, you'd have to have no pride whatsoever, you know. Your Honor, I'm going to swear under oath that I couldn't get the job done. I mean, I guess I technically did because she got pregnant, but she didn't enjoy the process. Wow. I mean, I guess we'd all degrade ourselves for the right amount of money, but geez, you know?
15! A little kid!
Yeah, well.
15! I had thought it was 14, Rick. I mean, I'd put a bullet in his ass if he,
Yeah.
15, he's 29.
Yeah.
I don't care if he went to Princeton, University of Chicago, wherever. He's a pedophile. Give me a break.
Yeah, and now wait a second. It claims he met her in a D.C. area bar. Now she, to my knowledge, was a lifelong Northeast Ohio resident, and yet she's in Akron at age 15, or she's in D.C. at age 15 in a bar, getting picked up by Leicester Bryce Stovell. I probably mangled his first name. My apologies to the pedophile. But, what an unbelievable story.
Yeah, he's not a deadbeat. He's a pedophile. It's a little bit worse than a deadbeat.
This is this is oh my God. I mean, and this just hit. This was new material from us right here at the top of the hour. I'll tell you what, the FDH New York Bureau, our senior producer Steve Servillo, coming to our rescue here. He had lined up Doug Glanville for us tonight. That hasn't happened yet. He's trying desperately to contact them. Having said that, not a bad plan B, emailing me this thing from TMZ, this thing here, giving us a little bit more to chew over, as though we didn't have enough already. Jason, before you came on, I mean, Nate and I were talking about this, what a week it's been. The week started out unpredictable with Joe Johnson, very surprisingly, in the estimation of me and a lot of people, staying in Atlanta, getting proffered that big money deal, probably above his market value, but staying there. The Rudy Gay thing in Memphis, which I said, Nate and I agreed on this. I don't know what you think, Jason, but again, you only win a championship in the NBA with the caliber of player that Rudy Gay can yet become. I know he hasn't become that yet at any level, but he's only 23. I'm going to defend Memphis on that deal, notwithstanding his track record, because if you're Memphis, you have to gamble he can become that guy, right? Every team is dealing with a limited set of options. The option that they have, the best one there, is hope and pray Rudy Gay becomes that guy, and they have to do that.
Let me give you a different angle, Rick.
Mm-hmm.
LeBron, Dwayne Wade, Chris Bosh, Amari Stoudemire, Dirk Nowitzki. Then, I don't know, maybe Boozer and David Lee.
Uh-huh.
Once you get past those 7,
Yeah.
Rudy Gay is my next guy.
Yeah.
If I'm a team, let's say you're the Cavaliers or the Celtics or the Clippers or somebody who's interested in making a move, but clearly doesn't have the money to get any of those top 5 to 7 guys.
Right.
If Memphis is willing to part with him, Rudy Gay's the next guy on the list.
Yeah.
He's the next guy that's going to be a potential, 24-plus point a game guy with the ability to grow into a position that allows him to fill the box score with rebounds, assists, steals, blocks. As far as these free agents go, once you get out of that top tier, there's no reason to not think about Rudy Gay. And for that, I have no problem whatsoever with a 5-year, $80 million contract or whatever it was.
But, yeah, I think that is that's something I definitely agree with because, again,
Rick, that's now. That's not a potential thought.
Right.
I'm saying I take Rudy Gay now with his current numbers at that price, and God forbid he evolves into the player that you, me, and the Memphis Grizzlies hope he will.
Top 30 players in the league, Jason. I just did a ranking here recently at the FDHLounge.com. I've got him 21 in the entire league. I've got him ahead of such guys as Paul Pierce at 23, Pau Gasol at 24, David Lee at 26. I've got him ahead of a couple of different guys there. So, yeah, I agree with you. I think that he can get to that point, and that Memphis is getting called out for that. But I think a lot of times we criticize teams without taking into full account the set of circumstances they're dealing with. Back to Joe Johnson for a second. I'll circle around, start with you on this, Nate, get your thought, and then go to Jason. That, to me, is a different one. Now, again, Atlanta is screwed, blued, and tattooed because they're kind of locked in with that kind of a team. They're locked into a model where they have to hope that enough of these guys grow, or in the case of Bibby, stay at a level where they can do it like Detroit did it in 04. You're not winning with a 10 and a 9, but you're hoping to do it with several 8.5s or 8s. You know, and Joe Johnson is the lead among those 8.5s or 8s. But even within that realm of possibilities, I think you're better off letting him walk and looking for that other remaining piece in another way. That one there, that contract to him at age 29, I think they're going to be hating that one sooner rather than later, Nate.
I agree with that, Rick, but I also look at it from a financial standpoint for this team. I mean, they were in some deep trouble 5-6 years ago, probably averaging 4,000 or 5,000 fans a game. Now they've got a team that's competitive. No, they're not going to win a championship with this team. Not going to happen. But at least they're going to have a winning record. At least they're going to make the playoffs, be in the hunt for the playoffs. They're going to be able to sell tickets, and that's what they saw going away. They remember what just happened less than a decade ago. They couldn't sell tickets. The Hawks were laughing stock. They were the Clippers East. They're no longer the Clippers East, and Joe Johnson's a big reason for that. And, I say props to them. Props to, loyalty for Joe Johnson for staying. Props to them for keeping their guy. You're going to build your marketing around Joe Johnson. No, he's not as good as the first 20 guys in the league, but you can try to make believe he is and continue to have a winning team and, continue to make the playoffs and continue to fill seats. And at the end of the day, the general manager and the coaching staff and, those people have to win now. And I think Joe Johnson, at least for the next couple of years, will be on that level. I agree that 5 years from now, Joe Johnson, 14-point-a-game guy with bad knees. But you got to live for now. When in professional sports, you got to live for now. You can't always be looking at the long term. You got to win now. You got to sell tickets now. And I think that's what the Hawks did.
In terms of looking at it from the possibilities that were in front of them, again, I still hold to what I'm saying, but you make a very compelling case the other way that Atlanta sends the wrong message to all their fans and everything like that. You make a compelling point in that way. How do you look at it, Jason?
Well, I'll be honest, when this first thing started, I kind of thought the dominoes would sort of fall in rank order. So I didn't think Joe Johnson would be sort of off the board at this point. With that being said, understanding that, somebody's going to get LeBron, somebody's going to get Dwayne Wade, and Chris Bosh is probably going to go somewhere with somebody else. Dirk is probably just sort of parlaying his opting out for a solid contract or whatever. I really thought that Joe Johnson might end up getting paired with a David Lee or a Carlos Boozer type somewhere other than Atlanta, which I think is probably the best solution for a team that's going to get Joe Johnson services. With that being said, as it's not necessarily crazy to think, I think Nate hit it right on the head. Atlanta had to keep him. I mean, if Atlanta's not getting LeBron, Wade, or Bosh, they had to keep him. There's just no two ways about that. It would have been nice if they were in a position to clear enough room maybe to get one of those second or third tier big men, somebody who can play 35 minutes a game and be a 20 and 10 kind of guy. But that just wasn't in the cards. But Atlanta absolutely had to keep him, and even if that means they are somewhere between a 6 seed and a 10 seed year in and year out, as Nate said, at least they're selling tickets.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. By the way, just in passing here, bad note for all Jake Peavy fantasy owners like myself. 15-day DL, but probably longer. Detached muscle in the back of his right shoulder, completely detached from the bone after having an MRI, and it's a pretty rare type of injury. Probably going to have surgery, and boy, who knows what he's going to be like on the other side with that, and it'll probably be after this year. So, tough note for Jake Peavy. We'll be talking fantasy baseball in just over an hour. Last notes on this here, guys. Thoughts on where LeBron's going tomorrow night? I rank Cleveland as probably a narrow favorite still ahead of Chicago. I've also got, I'm going to say New Jersey, then New York, then Miami in the mix. But probably a tier back of them. Nate, let's go to you next.
I think he's staying with the Cavs, Rick. I think the whole TV thing says it. Bulls, like, if I was to put percentages on it, 60% Cavs, 30% Bulls, 5% Heat, 4% Knicks, 1% anybody else at this point. I still think he's going to be a Cavs 24 hours from now, 26 hours from now.
Okay. All right. What do you think, Jason?
Well, I agree with the TV angle. He doesn't do this to kick Cleveland in the chest. So that's my first thought. And then if I step away from Cleveland for a moment, I think he's smarter than to go to Miami where you've got three guys who average about 70 to 80 points a game together trying to make that thing work. And why would LeBron go to Dwayne Wade town? The other thing is the Knicks, and I hate to say this because they're the ones who have been pushing the hardest. With Amari there and the rumors that there will be a sign and trade with David Lee going to the Spurs for Tony Parker, that's a nice little nucleus that actually does work. That's the only one that really scares me. I think Chicago, there's no way in hell he's going to go play with Boozer and Noah on the same team. I don't care how good Derrick Rose is. So bringing it back around, I say Cleveland on a vast majority. I mean, unless for some strange reason he's angry at someone in the organization or is just fed up in a way that we can't fathom, I'm going to say like 70% Cleveland and then like 10% New York, and then you could fill in the blanks after that. It's going to take one hell of a bad attitude or a bad feeling to send him away because every indication points back to Cleveland, even if that means it's LeBron James and the team he just had.
Yeah, I mean, we're all Cavs fans here, which skews it. But again, I mean, he can't be oblivious to how it's going to look to the country to kick this town in the teeth. It's the most pathetic, mangy dog, as I said before, on the American sports landscape. And if he takes the steel-toed boots and kicks us right in the nuts, that's definitely going to be a tarnishing. I don't think it's just wishful thinking on our part to think that and be cognizant of that. I know that our friends listening, from whether it be on the East Coast or whatever, might have a little bit different sense of that. But I think that's how we all look at it, and I think that's why he's still in the Cleveland is still in the lead, because I think for him to do this, I think it would imply a level of obliviousness on his part that I think is beyond him. He's a sharp guy. I don't think he's sharp enough to disregard that notion. Guys, I knew this was going to be tremendous. We got our MMA segment coming up on the next thing here after our break with our two MMA experts here, but we're breaking down MLB All-Star rosters at 9 o'clock. You guys are welcome back here at any point in time, so great to have you both on. Nate Noy, original dignitary, Jason Jones, our senior editor. Thanks, fellas.